Let's make sense of these stories now. Olaide Bano is macroeconomic analyst. He joins us now to look at some of the top business headlines. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Bano. We appreciate your time for coming on board.
Good morning. Thank you for having me once again.
Yes, so let's start from the first story, which talk about the federal government approval of about 453.9 billion naira for the procurement of rolling stock operation and maintenance equipment for the Kano Maradi, of course, in Niger Republic, standard gauge rail, which is currently under construction. Talk to us about, the economic impact of this on Nigeria economy, because if you look at the Niger Republic, for instance, their GDP, it's around 14.92 billion US dollars. That's as of 2021, and compare that to Nigeria, which is about 440 or almost 500 billion US dollars GDP. And if you look at their per capita, Nigeria is around 2,000 GDP per capita, and while Niger is around 590. So one is wondering about the economic benefit between this relationship.
Yeah, about the economic relationship, the question which is actually being asked most is that, does Nigeria actually need this rail line system between Nigeria and Niger? If you look at that alone, I think there are more questions that needs to be answered in the sense of, okay, what is the value of trade between Nigeria and Niger over time, and who has been the major exporter of goods between the two countries, like who is exporting more between the two countries. And also we need to look at, okay, yes, what are the types of goods that are being exported among each other. As at 2020, Nigeria exported $138 million of goods and services to Niger Republic 2020, which out of it, the about $41.3 million of goods were imported into Nigeria from Niger Republic, which means Nigeria is exporting more. And of the more we are exporting to Niger Republic, majority of it are through electricity services, which we are exporting to Niger Republic. And another product exported to Niger Republic is tobacco and cement, which, okay, yes, I will say all these ones are kind of, the tobacco and cement are kind of goods that can actually be make use of the rail services. Another thing is that, good enough, this rail service won't support only just between Niger and what we call it, the neighboring country between Niger and Nigeria, but it will also serve some other inter-states within Nigeria, like the Bauchi, and so on, like that, Jigawa, and so on. So, which, okay, yes, I would say for Nigeria inter-state economic benefit, yet it is good one. But if we actually need it for exporting goods and services between Nigeria and Nigeria, I think that's another thing to be answered.
I know the National Assembly in 2021, kicked against it, especially the Committee on Transport, Land, Maritime, and all that. They came together and they actually spoke against this now. So one wonder, like you said, one wondered exactly what is the economic benefit between the two countries. And if you look at the statistics you just read out now, it means that perhaps the country should be benefiting or is benefiting more, because Niger Republic as it is, do not have enough market to even maybe accommodate, or will I say take enough from Nigeria. So the question is, of what benefit is it? And like some Nigerians have said, who is benefiting from this? Can you hear me? Hello, Mr. Banu. Well, I guess we lost connection with Mr. Banu there. But the House, for instance, the Minister of Transport for State, Muazu Sambo, was speaking.
Hello, can you hear me?
At the end of Executive Council meeting yesterday, which of course was presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari. of course, we do know that this construction of rail line started in 2021, which of course will cover about 248 kilometers. Even though it will go through Kano, Kazaro in Bauchi State, and Daura in Katsina, a lot of people still want to know the economic benefit, who is benefiting more between, the country, between the two countries, Niger Republic and Nigeria. So, are you still there, Bano?
Hello, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, so talk to us. We do know that, yes, Niger Republic's trade and an agricultural hub, which of course is Maradi, right? But a lot of people are saying, even when you look at in terms of which of the two countries has the most arable land, fertile land, they sell it's Nigeria, not even Maradi, because we do know, yes, no doubt, Maradi is the hub of agricultural produce in Niger Republic, but some people are questioning the value between the two countries.
Actually, in terms of the landmass, we know that Niger Republic has the landmass compared to Nigeria, and also the goods as being produced by the two different countries are actually much different, because as I was given earlier about the statistics, what Nigeria exports to Niger, we should look at what Niger exports to Nigeria. That is the likes of palm oil, the likes of sheep and goats, and we can take away sheep and goats in our daily life consumptions in Nigeria. So this is also very important. But in terms of the value of what they are bringing into Nigeria is quite small, and we need to look at, okay, yes, what are the benefits the two countries actually needs to make, because you cannot live definitely in isolation. They're what you have, I don't have. What you need, I don't. I have.
In terms of landmass, we do know Niger is bigger, like you said, it's larger than Nigeria. But in terms of market, Nigeria is potentially better in terms of market, right, than Niger Republic. If you look at the facts on ground.
Exactly. In terms of the market, Nigeria has the better opportunity compared to Niger Republic. However, we need to look at, okay, yes, what's going to be our FX liquidity between the two countries? Are we going to have more FX facilities? And majority of these goods, in which currency are they being traded? That's one major thing to look at, because we have been talking about FX liquidity in the market. If all these goods are being traded in dollars, between the two countries legally, I'm not talking about the illegal aspect of it, they have been traded legally in dollars, at least it is going to boost the FX what we call our FX portfolio.
FX inflows.
Exactly, into the country.
But would it be out of place to trade in Naira? I mean, perhaps if you look at that, logically, that could boost the value of Naira, right?
Obviously, and it's going to boost the value, because there's going to be the demand of what we are producing, and we know we are having surplus. There's trade surplus between the two countries, but we still also need to look at, okay, yes, currently what we need is, okay, yes, the other countries in need of our goods.
Okay. Well, quickly, let's move to the next one there. Perhaps we should have Bano back online. The Central Bank of Nigeria has stated that it will not hesitate to withdraw the license of any bank found guilty of having errant shareholders. And the governor, Godwin Emefiele, actually made this known to newsmen during the NPC meeting on Monday and Tuesday, which, of course, they look at how to address, some of the fears or impact of the collapse of banks in the international market, especially the Silicon Valley Bank, which of course collapsed. We also have the Signature Bank for those who trade in cryptocurrencies, were also affected. I think he was talking from that perspective. Give us a sense of this. What does Emefiele mean by saying that they will revise their license for those who are having errant shareholders? What does this mean?
Let me start from this angle. Let me start from the classroom to say, okay, yes, we know that for a company, their asset is the same thing with their liability and equity together. So the equity, we can regard that as the shareholder, and okay, we can regard the liability of the company as those who give money, borrow money to the bank to do business, so to say. And definitely, we know that for every deposit the bank receives is a liability to them. They must repay it. So definitely, it's a commitment they put on themselves to say, okay, yes, if we have this deposit, your money is safe, and we are going to pay you with this particular interest based on the bank policy and the CBN policy as well. So it's a must that anytime the bank receive a deposit in their portfolio, they must return it back to the depositor. So definitely, I think it's a good move from the CBN to say, okay, yes, for every bank having errant shareholders, prioritizing its own share equity investment compared to depositors' fund. Definitely, they are going to release the data. I think that's the major thing the CBN can say. As Emefiele said, he said the license is the property of the CBN, which they can revoke at any time based on their decision, which is very fine. So for every for every depositor, their deposit must be saved in the bank, irrespective of the circumstances that happen within the banking system, and of which the shareholders, you are definitely the part owner of the bank, and which means you must return the depositors' money first before talking about your own profitability.
Okay. I know that the governor of the central bank, can you hear me? The central bank governor, Godwin Emefiele, also revealed that the Apex Bank, has put in place.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me now? Well, I get you correctly. I get your point. But I was trying to look at the measures taken by the CBN. Recently the CBN said that there are measures in place, to put in place to actually insulate Nigerian banks from any shock at all. How fundamentally strong is Nigerian, banking sector, given what happened at the Silicon Valley? Look at the Signature bank again, and also look at the Credit Suisse as well. They were all affected. Nobody expected what happened to happen. So how strong or fundamentally strong is Nigerian banking system?
I think what we need to look at is based on the control of the CBN has said, okay, yes, the cash reserve ratio of any Nigerian bank should be 32.5%. and the liquidity ratio should be 30%. The two together makes 62.5%, which means that the bank has about 37.5% to do any other businesses, which means that, okay, for the 32.5% cash reserve ratio, which means that is in the cover of the CBN, that it's for any shock that may come. And in terms of value, currently as we speak, it's about 14 trillion. Any shock that may come up in the banking system. Also, the liquidity ratio that talks about this, which is 30% now, means that for any bank in need of short-term liquidity, for a short-term instrument for trading, there is the bank must keep about 30% of their of their investment into that aspect. Okay, for irrespective of the shock that may come up, the bank should be able to.
Well, we lost a connection with Banu there, but it was trying to tell us that irrespective of the shock or any shock or surprise that may come in, because the value of the bank or collectively is about 14 trillion naira, we should be able to pull out of any crisis or financial crisis that may rock or hit at the banking sector. Are you still there? I needed to finish that thought.
I can hear you clearly. So we need to look at the loan to deposit ratio. We stand about 65%. That's okay. Yes, this gives the opportunity for the diversification of investment for the banks, not only to be looking into the long-term investments, putting money in a long-term investment such as the mortgage investment and so on, that may actually impact the banking assets in that aspect. But to look at, okay, yes, if one portfolio is not quite doing well, there's another one that is actually doing well better. So that irrespective of the shock, there will still a buffer for the, what we call it, for the banks to absorb the shock. I think the CBN has quite been doing an impressive what we call it in impressive policies to keep the bank system afloat. So in the last couple of years, between 2008 and now, I think there are few Nigerian banks that have gone under within that particular within that space.
What's the current loan to deposit ratio? What's the current percentage?
65, we have 65%.
Okay, is that healthy?
I would say currently it's healthy enough, though based on the current increase in the monetary policy rate, increase in the borrowing rate, the prime lending rate. I think this needs to be looked into again by the CBN.
Okay. I think we need to get away from there now. Well said. But let's look at the next story, which talk about the plan of the Director General of World Trade Organization, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, saying that the trade finance is important to boost trade growth in Africa. And they talked about the gap, how to, block, perhaps filling this gap that has, robbed Africa of growth in the last 5 to 10 years. Talk to us about this, the opportunities now that we have, the person, will I say that Nigeria really respect Okonjo-Iweala, a woman there now. We should be able to have some level of, leverage. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, about the trade financing, I think Nigeria have not been doing, Nigerian banks, so to say, have not been doing quite well, because the first person you will need to, where you want to trade your goods and services in this country, the first person you need to, when you need money, is the bank. And I think the bank have been quite the declining majority of the, what we call it, of the, let me say, the entrepreneur, the MSMEs of their goods, the needs to finance the export of their goods. And of which we have, in this country, we have about 22 commercial banks and 942 microfinance banks. So the license given by this microfinance bank is so little, in the sense of there is little to what they can do in terms of trade financing. But the majority of the finance company we have been doing quite well. It's just that the capitalization in that aspect is not that strong for them to support the trade finance, which it's only the bank that can actually be doing majority of this. So what needs to be done is for the bank, probably the CBN, to help the MSMEs in the sense of probably having a kind of KPI, what we call it, for the banks to say, okay, yes, what is the value of a particular, out of this particular asset they have, and this value should be used to export, to finance trade in the country.
So if you said earlier that the banks have about 14 trillion naira in terms of asset, if you put that collective asset
in terms of the cash reserve ratio.
Okay, that's reserve. Okay, reserve ratio. So, can we? Is there any barrier you think we can, remove to trade finance so as to increase Nigeria's participation in global trade?
Yeah, the barrier, majority of the barrier has actually been moved by the Africa Free Continental Free Trade Zone, which, okay, yes, we can export some goods and services within the Africa country, but when we're looking out of Africa countries, I think we need to look at the goods which we are currently producing and needs to be exported. We still currently have the ban on some about 44 goods and services being banned from FX access by the CBN. So this also having a lot of challenges. But what we think, okay, the CBN needs to do, or probably the banks need to do, to look, okay, yes, are you importing or are you exporting? Because the two action are what we call trades. So if I think there should be a need for the, what we call it, for more of exporting than
I think more businesses should be encouraged to export more.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's move to the last story. This one, of course, talks about the statistics that are just been, published by the National Bureau of Statistics, revealing that average retail price paid by consumer, all right, talking about consumers for premium motor spirit in February rose to about 263 naira 76 kobo. That's about 54.76% increase. If you compare that to what happened in January, where people bought 170 naira, 42 kobo per liter. So if you compare these two, the price rose in February compared to
February
January.
So 2022 and February 2023, we've experienced so many crises, so many shocks within the petroleum industry. Firstly is the Russian-Ukraine war. The second one is the dirty fuel. And the other one is this supply issue, which we had between the month of August towards the end of last year and early this year. So this has been the issue causing the increase in the pump price. And we still currently have, the government still talking about the removal of subsidy by June this year, which means in the next couple of months now we are going to have we are not going to have subsidy in our petroleum products any longer. So this, I would say, okay, this 263 naira per liter. I think we even say, okay, yes, we are even just getting started, because by the time the subsidy is being removed, we are going to have another increase in pump price, increase in transportation cost, and more likely the increase in inflation.
But do you think the country is ready for this? Between 2022 and now, we've had increase, which is estimated at 54.7% in terms of price increase spent by consumers already. So, but between now and then, I know the plan is that by June this year we should have subsidy removed. But the way it is now, there are no measures in place, there are no plans in place to cushion the effect of that action or implementation comes June. So do you think the country is ready, really?
Yeah, I would say we're definitely not ready for it, because the infrastructure is not in place. The sentiment in the market is not in place. The economy is not in place to say, okay, yes, we are actually ready for it. But what I think the government needs to do most is the sensitization about, okay, the subsidy removal, and then to start looking at, okay, yes, what price range are we going to have after the subsidy removal in terms of the pump price of fuel. And definitely, with the look at, okay, yes, everybody now start looking at, okay, based on this range of price we are coming up with, how can I cope with this price? So that very needs to be done, and so that everybody mind will start looking at it, okay, this is what is expected, and this is how I can actually affect my own daily income or expenses also.
I think we're a good place to live in. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Olaide Bano, macroeconomic analyst, there for us. Thank you. We appreciate your time. Do have a great day.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right. Still to come after the break, we'll hit the equities market after now, and we look at how the market has bounced back with about 0.06% at the close of Wednesday. So what's driving the market? We'll be back in a moment to talk about this. Please stay with us.